So what is digital analytics? And again, we can refer to digital analytics in kind of a hybrid form between the web and the social media analytics. And so what is it? What comprises it? And how did we arrive kind of where we did? So the first thing that we want to talk about is the components of analytics. One of the biggest things is that you need to understand that analytics can be free. So data in of itself is free. It's accessible readily on the website and on web pages. And so you can certainly access data in any form. The things that you pay for is really the analysis of this data. So when we talk about analytics, you can understand that it really can be free, and good analytics, in fact, can be free. You also need to understand, as I just alluded to, that there are many different resources that also provide analytic analysis and present your data in a wide variety of ways. So as I said, there's lots of data, but there's barriers to intelligence decisions. And I'll even say intelligent decisions with that. Meaning, I can give you lots of information, but if you don't have a brain to understand it in a meaningful way, not saying that people are dumb, but simply that they don't understand what they're looking at, it can be very hard because it can really build a barrier to actually getting things done. This is where we have, the death by data is what you'll hear. And so you have all this data and it's influxed and people will hand you lots of reports, but nobody can make sense of them. And so nobody makes any decisions relating to them. And that's just a waste of time. And so what our goal with this course, but also just with digital analytics as a whole, is to break through those barriers and to be able to provide meaningful data and information so that decisions can actually be made. Action can be taken. The analytics tools are not ends in themselves. Just having tools, having access to Google Analytics or having Omniture or having several other tools that are out there, just having that isn't enough. And so we're going to talk about the 10-90 principle, teasing it here. You want to spend a very low amount on your tool and a very high amount on the brains that go behind it. So hiring really smart analysts is much more valuable than having a Corvette analytics machine operating within your business. So the next piece of this is that you want to make it right the first time. So there's lots and lots of books explaining SEO, search engine optimization, analytics, web design, lots of other marketing topics. One of the biggest things, though, is that all of these things have to work together to create a specific strategy. So when you get into this, you want to make sure that when you're doing it, you're actually thinking about it right from the first time. In fact, in analytics, making the wrong choice in a selection of filters can actually really, really screw up your data. And so then you're having skewed data. There's no way to go back and fix it. And so when you get started on analytics, you're going to want to make sure that you have a plan in place before you actually implement analytics. Now, what's interesting is for this term's projects, you're actually going to be starting this process midstream. You don't have a lot of decision-making authority. You can't go to the CIO of the university and tell her to stop doing something or to start doing something. But that will actually create a really probably a more real environment than you think, because a lot of times web analysts have to earn their credibility with upper management before making these recommendations, even if it means not having access to the full data set. And that hopefully will make a little bit more sense as we go through the rest of the term. Analytics is search engine optimization, as I said before. It is social media channels. It's pay-per-click marketing, among a number of other things. Content. Analytics is content, so the words that are actually written. And here's what's really cool, and one of the reasons that communication and intelligence studies and business and marketing and business competitive intelligence and even mathematics and computer information systems, these all come together under these topics here, right? So SEO is keywords, it's writing, but it's also a lot of math and it's a lot of programming. And social media is a little bit of marketing, it's a little bit of public relations, it's a little bit of writing. And the competitive intelligence isn't listed here, but you'll hear me talk about this frequently. But competitive intel deals with all of this stuff. And so it's a really interesting juxtaposition of all of these different disciplines coming together. We'll also talk about usability. And so we're going to talk a lot about the consumer and who's using your website and who's using your social media channels and what they want. It's not just about you as a business, it's about them as a customer. And so usability ensures that your message and visitor tasks are actually clear. And so there's the computer science side of it and a little bit of the marketing, a little bit of psychology coming through. Analytics are able to tell you what just happened, right? So your consumer goes through the website and they bounce. It's called bounce rate, right? So they hit a page and they're gone without going anywhere else. So what exactly happened? What went wrong? Because obviously they didn't convert, and that's one of the key metrics that we try to measure is them purchasing something or applying if it's a university setting. The analytics are able to give you a better picture of what actually occurred without having to go find that one person. So the combination of analytics, usability, and testing are going to tell you exactly what's going on. And so we have this data and we have usability. And so we actually go out and we test and we experiment and we ask people. And then testing. Okay, so we think it's a hypothesis, right? We think A, so we're going to go and test A, but we're also going to test B, and we're going to see which performs better. And so we do testing. It's like one big science experiment. And that together is really what analytics is all about. And so one of the authors in Web Metrics and Analytics says that really, underscoring all of this is really the definition of marketing. And in marketing, it's an older definition and one that if you've taken a more up-to-date class, you've probably surpassed, and there's some better definitions now, but it really makes sense going back to this original kind of classic definition of direct marketing, which is giving the right people the right message with the right offer at the right time. And that really spells out what we do on websites, right? So we want to find our segment of people, and we'll talk more about that later, but we find that segment, we understand what they're all about, and then we give them this message and this offer, this persuasion at the right time. And websites have to be designed in a way that all of these things are coming together. And it's such a microcosm of what goes on in the bigger marketing context. And so, a lot of online marketing and online experience is really rooted in the century of direct marketing industry. And so we see a lot of these principles coming out, but we don't just stop there because it's not always true. What happens in the real-time environment isn't always true of what happens in the online environment. And so one of the things that I also like to pause here with the analytics is that analytics is both an art and a science. And we see this in a lot of these relationship types of industries, right? So public relations is both an art and a science. Communication is both an art and a science. Marketing is both an art and a science. And again, we're seeing it here in the online marketing because you're building these relationships with your consumers. We just do it in a non-face-to-face type of an environment. And so we're going to talk a lot about the science, but also understand that nobody really has this down. And just when we think we have it down, Google goes ahead and changes their algorithm. Yahoo goes ahead and changes their algorithm, and some of the other search engines do as well. And we're left to kind of retool and rethink and come up with some better practices. And if the algorithm stuff doesn't make sense, we'll talk about that next week. But the biggest thing here, and the biggest thing in analytics, again, and I come back to this not only from the why, so in a previous video you read or you watched and learned about the why we do this, it comes back to profit, right? So the website, beyond getting high rankings in Google, beyond getting a high visitor count coming across, beyond lowering your bounce rate or getting a high conversion rate, it all ties back to your business goals, which generally end in profit.